I adhered to the principle that a forced melon may not be sweet, but it still quenches thirst, and forcefully occupied Sophia for 60 years. On my deathbed, wearing a ventilator, I looked at Sophia sitting expressionlessly by the bedside, filled with deep remorse. I asked, in our 60-year marriage, have you ever loved me? The next second, Sophia rolled her eyes at me. Speechless, I closed my eyes wearily and said despairingly, Sophia, I've loved you my whole life and also wasted your life. If there's a chance for a new life, I'm willing to cut off all ties with you and never see you again. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn back in high school. In my previous life, I warmed Sophia's heart for a lifetime, yet I could never melt this iceberg. This time, I was determined to stay away from her completely and never meet again. However, the next day, Sophia came to my school. She pinned me against the stairwell, hands on her hips, and sneered, James, in this life, you can't escape my grasp either. The main story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to subscribe. I was reborn, back in my senior year of high school. In the classroom, looking at the familiar teachers, classmates, and environment, it felt like I had just woken up from a long dream. In my previous life, Sophia's family's company was on the verge of bankruptcy due to poor management. Forced by her father, Sophia had to leave her childhood sweetheart who was pursuing her and was compelled to be with me. After marriage, I did everything I could to treat her well, almost giving my life to her. I loved Sophia far more than myself. Sophia didn't let me down either. Outside, she supported my career and was my capable assistant, making the enterprises of the James and Sophia families grow bigger and bigger. At home, she was gentle and considerate, and she even gave birth to our children. But after getting married, Sophia never smiled again. I was originally a delinquent in school, proficient in fighting and skipping classes. While Sophia ranked first in the provincial examinations for 2 consecutive years in high school. She was both beautiful and intelligent. Perhaps she had never looked up to me. Although her body was by my side, her heart was always with that overseas-educated childhood sweetheart. We lived in a marriage of convenience for a lifetime, both of us suffering terribly. Given a new life, I decided to forget about Sophia and live my own life well. However, the next second, my family called, saying they had arranged a meeting with a girl for me at the city library. It was said that this girl was excellent in both character and learning, and she was also the campus belle of a nearby key high school. My family told me to seize this opportunity. Without hearing the name, I knew it was Sophia. Because in my previous life, Sophia was the campus belle of that provincial key high school, and in order to pursue her, I went to that school, pestered her every day, and even facilitated the cooperation between the James and Sophia families, and finally won her heart. But this time, I didn't look for Sophia. How could she find me? Although I couldn't figure it out, I still firmly refused my family's request, and as a result, I was scolded by my mother. She scolded, that girl is beautiful, kind-hearted, and excellent at studying. She's more than enough for you. She came to our house and specifically asked to see you. How dare you not go? If you don't go, I'll cut off the mother-son relationship with you. I've decided on Sophia as my daughter-in-law. Whether you're my son or not doesn't matter. After hanging up the phone, I was left in a daze. In my previous life, Sophia was gentle and virtuous, and she really had a good relationship with my parents. Under the coercion of my family, I could only helplessly go to the appointment. Before leaving, my mother insisted on giving me a Cartier diamond ring and told me to be enthusiastic towards Sophia. I sneered. As soon as I went out, I opened the expensive gift box, took out the ring inside, and replaced it with a 5-cent toy ring from the grocery stall at the door. To make Sophia dislike me more, I deliberately dressed sloppily, dyed my hair yellow, and stuck tattoo stickers all over my body. Standing at the entrance of the city library, people around me cast strange glances at me. Sophia was sitting by the window. The sunlight dyed her hair golden, exuding a cold, noble, and unapproachable aura. After I entered the door, looking at my funny appearance in the opposite mirror, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Perhaps, I didn't need to act ugly. Sophia would still dislike me as always. As soon as I entered the door, Sophia looked at me. Her eyes were smiling, and the corners of her mouth curved into a beautiful arc. I was speechless. In my previous life, I bought Sophia luxury cars, watches, and bags in various ways, but she never gave me a good look. This was the first time I saw her smile at me, and she smiled so sweetly. I couldn't help but wonder. Why did she smile when I had yellow hair and tattoos? Could it be that I got it right by accident? Her taste is quite unique. She said, James, this is a gift for our first meeting. Sophia opened her handbag, and inside was a brand new Dragon Ball comic book with Akira Toriyama's autograph on the cover. My favorite comic is Dragon Ball. How did Sophia know that? Could it be a coincidence? I avoided Sophia's gaze, forced myself to calm down, and not make the mistakes of my previous life. I said, I'm not interested in such childish things. You can take it back. Being rejected for giving a gift, Sophia wasn't angry at all. She still asked with a smile, what about the gift Auntie asked you to prepare for me? I handed her the Cartier box. Sophia opened the gift box and covered her mouth in a surprised manner. I said mischievously, it's a 5-cent ring bought at the stall. I don't know if it suits your taste. Sophia put on the ring, her eyes looking deeply into mine, and half joking, half seriously asked, are you proposing to me? I was speechless. What kind of thinking is this? I noticed that Sophia put the plastic ring on her ring finger. If it were in my previous life, I would have been so happy that I fainted. But a forced relationship is not sweet. This time, I decided to let go of Sophia and also let go of myself. I put on a straight face and pretended to be displeased, saying, to be honest, I'm not interested in you. Sophia lowered her eyes and stopped smiling, seemingly angry. She stood up, stuffed the comic book into my hands, and turned to leave the bookstore. I held the signed book, feeling dazed. Suddenly, a wooden handmade bookmark slipped out of the book. I picked up the bookmark and saw Sophia had written 8 words in her familiar handwriting. Even after a lifetime, we may seem like strangers. While meeting for the first time, we may feel like old friends. I looked at Sophia's leaving back, my heart filled with complex emotions. Until she walked out of the door, she didn't take off the ring I gave her. No matter what Sophia meant, it didn't matter anymore. From now on, we owed each other nothing and would never see each other again. The next day when I returned to school, I was stunned when I saw Sophia on the podium. Why was she here? With Sophia was her childhood sweetheart, David. The two of them stood in front of the podium, like a perfect couple. The homeroom teacher introduced, these two are new transfer students who will spend their senior year with you. Amidst the applause of the crowd, Sophia and David introduced themselves respectively. Their resumes were extremely rich, especially David, who went abroad to study as a math genius for 3 years and won numerous international awards during those 3 years, returning to China with great honors. I was sitting in the corner of the last row, dozing off against the wall. The guy sitting in the front row nudged my arm and said, James, the new female classmate is really beautiful, fair-skinned and good-looking. She must be your type. I glanced at him impatiently and said, get lost. The teacher pointed at one of the classmates and said, you move back and make 2 empty seats for the new classmates. You two have good grades and can help each other study when sitting together. I felt extremely annoyed. Anyway, in my previous life, Sophia was my wife. Seeing her being affectionate with another man made me feel indescribably uncomfortable. Unexpectedly, in the envious eyes of everyone, Sophia, carrying her school bag, walked straight up to me. She still had a sweet smile and said, James, please move aside. I want to sit in the seat next to you. David on the podium was stunned and said, Sophia, if you sit next to him, what about me? Sophia didn't even look back and said, do whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me. I ignored her and directly lay down on the table and fell asleep. When I woke up, I found a blanket covering me. Sophia was sitting next to me, her chin resting on her hand, looking at me with a smile. She said, I also have a pillow here. Do you want to use it? Speechless, I directly twisted the blanket into a ball and returned it to her. Several guys sitting in the last row were laughing and teasing non-stop, but Sophia didn't mind their commotion at all. Soon after class, David walked to Sophia's seat, looking furious, and said, Sophia, we grew up together. Instead of sitting with me, you want to hang out with the delinquent in the back row. I didn't care that David was chasing Sophia, but he shouldn't look down on people when speaking. I lifted David's collar with one hand and asked, what did you say? My friends gathered around, ready to beat David up. But David wasn't afraid at all and said arrogantly, people like you who sit in the back row and fool around all day without studying are just the scum of society. If you dare to hit me, I'll tell the teacher and get you all expelled. The college entrance examination was coming up soon, and no one wanted to be punished for fighting. I stopped my friends who were about to take action and also let go of David's collar. David became even more proud and said, you don't even have the guts to fight. You're really scum. However, the next second, with a crisp slap, Sophia slapped David across the face. Not only David, but even I was stunned by Sophia's slap. David covered his face and asked in disbelief, Sophia, you hit me for a scum of society. Sophia's smile disappeared, and she said coldly, James is just playful. His character is good, and he never insults or slurs others. Unlike some so-called civilized people who consider themselves social elites, who keep calling others scum. Besides, people sitting in the back row may not end up worse than you in the future. First being hit and then being scolded, David covered his face, glared at me, and left resentfully. I couldn't believe that Sophia would hit David for me. After thinking about it, I understood what was going on. According to the time, Sophia's family should have owed debts by now and urgently needed funds for turnover. Her approaching me should be because her father forced her to come and ask my family for cooperation. I simply said, Sophia, I know your family is in trouble and needs funds for turnover. I won't stop you if you want to cooperate with my family, but don't bother me anymore in the future. After that, I called a few friends and went for a stroll on the playground. Sophia sat at the desk with her head down, not knowing what she was thinking. On the playground, a friend asked, James, with such a beautiful girl pestering you, aren't you at all tempted? I was in a bad mood and didn't answer. In my previous life, after Sophia was with me, her emotions were affected, her grades dropped sharply, and she didn't get into her ideal university. This matter had always bothered her. Being with her would only delay both of our lives and never bring happiness. Thinking of this, I dialed my father's phone, wanting him to help Sophia's family as soon as possible and facilitate the cooperation between the two families, so that Sophia wouldn't pester me anymore. But to my surprise, my father was extremely puzzled. He said, Son, what are you talking about? Sophia's family solved their crisis 2 weeks ago by themselves. It has nothing to do with our family. It is said that it was your fiancé who helped her father solve it. I hung up the phone and was completely at a loss. The fiancé my father mentioned was Sophia. How did she manage to help the company solve the crisis? Also, since there was no crisis in Sophia's family, why did she still come to me? Suddenly, a hand pressed on my shoulder. I turned around abruptly and saw David with a face full of resentment. He threatened, James, I warn you. Sophia is mine. Don't you ever get close to her again. I was extremely speechless and said, which eye of yours saw me approaching her? I thought that from the moment we met until now, it was always Sophia who was trying to get close to me, although I didn't know her purpose. My friend pushed David away and cursed, Bastard, are you asking for a beating? I didn't want to fight with such an idiot, so I left with my friends. Before leaving, David didn't forget to warn me, stay away from Sophia in the future. Soon, a group of people from outside the school came to the playground and started arranging heart-shaped candles in the middle of the playground. David was holding a bouquet of flowers, standing in the middle of the candles, shouting Sophia's name loudly. Many onlookers also shouted with him. In the midst of everyone's shouts, Sophia walked down the stairs and stood with David in the middle of the heart-shaped candles. I stood in the distance, my heart bitter. The little bits and pieces of my decades-long relationship with Sophia in love and marriage emerged in front of my eyes like a revolving lantern. At this moment, how I wished that before I died in my previous life, I could hear Sophia say I loved you. If she had said that, I would have rushed up without hesitation and snatched Sophia from this idiot David, instead of just watching her be with another man like I am now. However, in the next second, in everyone's surprised eyes, Sophia in the distance threw away the flowers David gave her, and then kicked over the candles arranged in a circle. She lifted her white and delicate gauze skirt and trotted towards me. Sophia tilted her head, looked at me with a blooming smile, and asked, Aren't you jealous that I accepted flowers from another man? I was stunned. Could it be that Sophia accepted David's flowers and deliberately delayed for a while just to make me jealous? Sophia in a white dress, pure and lovely, had a great impact on me. I just felt flustered and turned around to run away. Sophia quickly caught up with me, gently pulled my sleeve, and asked, Did you see the bookmark I gave you? Do you know what even after a lifetime, we may seem like strangers, while meeting for the first time, we may feel like old friends means? I didn't dare to face Sophia, so I quickened my pace and perfunctorily said, I don't know. Sophia replied, No, you do. When we reached the stairwell, Sophia flashed in front of me, grabbed my hands with her soft little hands, and pressed me against the wall, pouting. She snorted and said, James, don't think you're the only one who was reborn. In the last life, you took my whole life. In this life, I want yours. Lifetime after lifetime, I'll stick to you and be your woman, James. I looked at Sophia's angry look, feeling confused. In my previous life, she was cold and taciturn, always keeping people at a distance. Neither I nor those around her had hardly ever seen any emotions on Sophia's face. She always had that cold and aloof goddess look. After getting married, besides giving birth to our children and taking care of the housework, she hardly had any emotional communication with me. Compared to Sophia being reborn with me, what I couldn't believe more was that she would show her true feelings to me. I gently pushed Sophia's hands away, lowered my head, and struggled for a long time before saying, Sophia, marrying me in the previous life made you miserable for a lifetime. Seeing you frowning all the time made me sad too. After being reborn, since the Sophia family has solved their troubles on their own and doesn't need the help of the James family, from now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. In this life and the next, we'll never see each other again. Sophia's angry expression disappeared, replaced by a look of grievance. She said, James, I was just a little cold to you. Is it necessary for you to be so angry with me? In the last life, you never yelled at me. Just a few days after being reborn, you not only yelled at me but also bullied me. Sophia became more and more wronged and tears fell down. I doted on Sophia for a lifetime. She not only took care of my family and my parents but also gave birth to our children. If I said I had no feelings for her, it was impossible. The reason I refused Sophia was just that I didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the previous life and let her marry someone she didn't love and be depressed for life. I turned to leave, waved to Sophia, and said, after I go back, I'll move your seat next to David. In the future, don't get close to me again. Sophia stopped me again and said angrily, James, why do you reject me? Have you changed your heart in just a few days after being reborn? I couldn't face Sophia in tears, otherwise I would soften my heart at any time. I walked around her and said as I walked, my heart has never changed, and neither has yours. In this life, I'm tired and I give up. I'll find an ordinary girl who adores me and live an ordinary life. Sophia stopped chasing, and I could faintly hear her sobs. Several times, I couldn't resist the urge to turn around, hug her, and rekindle our relationship. But for her happiness and to avoid ending my life in depression, I endured the pain and returned to the classroom. I packed Sophia's school bag and moved her seat to the one next to David's. Just as I finished, the bell for the afternoon self-study class rang. David, looking disheveled, entered the classroom. When he saw Sophia's school bag on the empty seat beside him, he blushed with excitement, looking like a cooked pig's head. Sophia entered the classroom with a gloomy face, not saying a word, and instinctively started walking towards me. David, beaming with excitement, blocked her way and said, Sophia, I knew you wouldn't reject me. You must have been too nervous on the playground just now, so you could only run away shyly. Now you regret it and moved your seat next to mine, right? Sophia glared at David hatefully, then pointed angrily at her school bag and asked, who did this? The whole class wore a gossipy expression, whispering about who had touched Sophia's things. In the 60 years we lived together, I had never seen Sophia this angry. I was even more confused. I was trying to get Sophia and her childhood sweetheart David together, so why was she still angry? In the previous life, whenever Sophia got angry, no matter who was at fault, I had to apologize. Seeing her hands start to tremble, I, as cowardly as I was in the previous life, stood up obediently and said, it was me. David, like the whole class, looked at me in disbelief. The next second, there was a loud slap as Sophia slapped David across the face with all her might. David covered his stinging cheek, looking wronged and incredulous, and asked, Sophia, he touched your school bag. Why are you hitting me? Sophia replied, if you dare to pester me again, I'll hit you again. Sophia picked up her school bag and stormed up to me. I took 2 steps back and said, hey, you hit him, so you can't hit me. Sophia threw the school bag in front of me and said resentfully, put all the things back in their original places, right now. The guys beside me all looked at me. In high school, I was a typical tough guy. Whenever there was a conflict with someone, I usually solved it with my fists. So, when I stood up, everyone quickly backed away, afraid of getting hurt. However, the next moment, I obediently opened Sophia's school bag, put the books in the drawer, and arranged the pens, rulers, workbooks, etc. in the pencil box back in their original positions. Then, I smiled obsequiously and asked, Miss Lou, is this okay? The guys in the back row looked at me with contempt. Sophia sat down, fuming, and said, if you do this again, I'll really be angry. I subconsciously let out a sigh of relief. In the previous life, I really had never seen her this angry. She was always cold and aloof, never losing her temper. Her sudden change in temperament made me quite scared. Besides, I couldn't bear to hurt a single hair on her head. The guy next to me grinned mischievously and came over to ask, realized you should dote on your wife. I waved my fist and said, if I can't hit her, can't I hit you? During the self-study class, the head teacher suddenly pushed the door open. The 60-year-old woman had a face and slapped the podium hard, saying, who was confessing on the playground this afternoon? Stand up. Sophia and David stood up simultaneously. When the head teacher saw them, her attitude softened a lot and a smile appeared on her face. She said, oh, it's you too. You both have good grades, but this is a crucial time for the college entrance examination. You can't delay your studies because of puppy love. Sophia retorted, teacher, I'm not having a puppy love with him. He knows I like someone else, but he still keeps harassing me. The head teacher was stunned and asked, Sophia, can you tell the teacher who the person you like is? Sophia pointed at me without hesitation. The head teacher's face turned serious again, and she criticized, James is a delinquent in the class. He never studies. How can you be with someone like him? Sophia said calmly, Teacher, I don't think grades can represent everything. Character is more important than grades. A group of students with not so good grades in the back row immediately cheered. The teacher's face looked as ugly as if she had eaten a fly. She pointed at us and shouted, You two, go stand in the office right now. I was caught up in this disaster for no reason and could only go to the office with Sophia. On the way, I sensed something wrong with what Sophia said, so I asked, Sophia, you just said that character is more important than grades. Is there something wrong with David's character? Sophia nodded and said, yes. When talking about David, Sophia didn't hide the disgust in her eyes. She said, I've known David for a long time. He has been living an immoral life since he was a child. When he was studying abroad, he got a girl pregnant. Later, the girl managed to get a visa and came to China to find David, but he flat out denied it. The girl couldn't afford a plane ticket back home and almost committed suicide in the hospital. It was me who couldn't stand it and helped that poor girl go back to her country. I suddenly understood and said, there was a period when you always went to the hospital because of David. Was it for this? Sophia said, what else could it be? I felt a pang of regret. When Sophia said she went to the hospital because of David, I just thought David was sick and in the hospital, and she went to take care of him. Whenever I was sick, I went to the hospital with the butler. But whenever David was sick, Sophia would drop everything and take care of him in the hospital for almost half a month. Every time I thought about this, it felt like a knife was piercing my heart. After Sophia explained everything, her eyes became more resentful. She said, in your heart, do you think I'm that kind of a moral woman? I quickly waved my hands and said, I've never thought that way. Sophia sighed softly and said, you always blame me for not telling you the truth, but aren't you the same? Whenever something happens, you just think about it in your head and never ask me. At this moment, the head teacher pushed the door open. Her face was even darker, and she shouted angrily, I told you to stand in the office to reflect, not to flirt here. Do you two know you're wrong? Sophia and I didn't say anything. I was already this old, and I thought there was nothing wrong with having a relationship. The head teacher scolded us for a long time, but Sophia and I didn't react much. She was so angry that she was shaking all over. Pointing at us, she stammered, tomorrow at the school assembly, you two write a 3,000-word self-criticism and read it on the podium. Otherwise, I'll give you a major demerit. Sophia and I didn't show any expression. With our grades, we could get into any school we wanted. Unless we were expelled, any demerit wouldn't have a big impact. After school, the butler had parked the car at the door. At this time, my mom called and said that there was a big meal prepared at home and asked me to bring Sophia home for dinner. Although Sophia and I had cleared up some misunderstandings, the 60-year-long estrangement wasn't that easy to eliminate. However, in this life, I was willing to give Sophia another chance, and also give myself a chance. I asked, there's a family dinner at my place tonight. Do you want to come? Sophia didn't answer but instead asked with a smile, are you inviting me? Before I could answer, the sound of a motorcycle came. David took off his helmet and, as persistent as ever, pestered Sophia, Sophia, I'm having a party today. Do you want to come? Sophia hesitated for a moment and said, James, you go back first. Hearing Sophia's words, my heart suddenly sank. Maybe she still didn't love me. The words she said to me during the detention today were just compensation for me because I died with hatred in the previous life. I didn't linger any longer and got in the car and left alone. When I got home, the food on the table was already very sumptuous, but my parents were still busy in the kitchen. My mom wiped her hands and came to the door warmly. Seeing only me, she asked in confusion, where's Sophia? Why didn't she come with you? I said, she won't come. After the meal was ready, my parents took their seats. The originally lively family dinner now had an extremely solemn atmosphere. My dad started interrogating me, we've all met Sophia. Her personality, temper, and looks are all great. She's interested in you, or she wouldn't have come to our house. Did you do something to make Sophia unhappy? The fact that Sophia refused to ride in my car and stayed with David already made me unhappy, and being blamed by my parents made me even more upset. I said, Mom and Dad, Sophia doesn't like me at all. She has her childhood sweetheart in her heart. If we have to be together, neither of us will be happy in this life. Then, I told my parents everything that happened today in detail. After hearing my words, my parents were stunned. My mom hesitated for a long time and then said in disbelief, Sophia shouldn't be the kind of person you described. I was so angry that my hands were shaking. I said, if she's not that kind of person, why wouldn't she ride in my car? Just then, Sophia's voice came from outside the door. Sorry, I'm late. I was stunned. Didn't Sophia go with David? Why was she at my house? Sophia struggled to carry big and small bags of gifts and entered the door. My dad kicked me and said, "What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and help take the things." I reluctantly helped Sophia carry the things. At the dinner table, my parents were, after all, on my side. My mom asked subtly, "Sophia, why didn't you come back with James after school?" Sophia said frankly, "Auntie, I came so late because I was afraid James would be jealous. He's so petty. He always thinks there's something between me and a boy in the class. So, after school today, I asked that boy to talk and told him not to harass me anymore, so that James wouldn't feel uncomfortable when he saw it." After hearing this, my dad kicked me in the butt and shouted, "A real man shouldn't be so petty. Pick some food for Sophia and apologize." I still didn't want to move and asked, "Sophia, what did you talk about with David today? How did you talk?" Sophia said indifferently, "I didn't talk much. I just gave him a slap and told him not to harass me again. If he shows up in front of me next time, I'll hit him again." I was speechless. I thought, how did she become a violent girl? I swallowed hard and obediently picked some food for Sophia. During this meal, my parents and Sophia had a very pleasant conversation. At night, she stayed in the guest room of my house. At night, I tossed and turned in bed. In this new life, Sophia's personality had changed a lot. David, who was once close to her, had become a pariah in this life. Everything seemed to be developing in a good direction, and even I couldn't help but want to get back together with Sophia. But there was one thing that always bothered me. In the previous life, I was with Sophia for 60 years, but I couldn't warm her cold heart. In this life, Sophia took the initiative to pursue me and even pestered me. How could someone who didn't love me for 60 years change all of a sudden? Did Sophia have some other purpose for staying by my side? I couldn't fall asleep all night. When I got up the next morning, I suddenly remembered something. Oh no, I forgot to write the self-criticism. Our head teacher is a menopausal woman with a strange temper. Whenever someone goes against her, they'll basically be harassed every now and then. Today, Sophia and I have to read a 3,000-word self-criticism in front of all the teachers and students in the school. If we mess it up and make the old lady lose face, she'll definitely hold a grudge. To avoid being hated by the head teacher, I didn't even have breakfast. I quickly found a self-criticism on the internet and copied it. Even the butler and the driver at home imitated my handwriting and each copied one page. Before leaving, I finally managed to finish the 3,000-word self-criticism. When we got to school, we went directly to the playground to line up. Every Monday morning, there is a flag-raising ceremony, followed by a school assembly. At the assembly, besides commending a few students with good grades, those who violated discipline are criticized. When lining up, Sophia deliberately lined up with me. About to speak in front of thousands of people, I asked nervously, "Have you written your self-criticism?" Sophia said with complete calm, "Not a single word." "What?" I was almost shocked. I asked, "Then what are you going to do later?" Sophia said with a smile in her eyes, "You'll know then." The speech on the stage was about to end, and there was less than a minute left before we went on stage. If we couldn't say a word in front of thousands of people, it would be embarrassing, and we'd get scolded by the teacher when we got back. I hesitated for a moment, then handed her my self-criticism and said, "Read this later. I'll take the blame." Whether I wanted to get back together with Sophia or not, I was once her husband, and I had to take this for her. Unexpectedly, Sophia didn't care at all and didn't want to take my self-criticism. I was so angry that my brows twitched. I said, "Don't blame me if you get scolded and cry later." Soon, Sophia and I were called to the stage. At the head teacher's signal, I started reading the self-criticism emotionlessly. The 3,000 words were quickly read, and I managed to get through it. After I finished, the teacher handed the microphone to Sophia and said, "Sophia, it's your turn." Sophia took the microphone but didn't take out the self-criticism. She turned to look at me, and a determined light flashed in her eyes. She said, "James, I don't know when I fell in love with you. But when I realized that I was about to lose you, I knew how much I loved you. Seeing you lying in bed, about to leave me, I was extremely regretful, more regretful than I could ever express. I wanted to say I loved you, but I always felt that I had done nothing, so I didn't deserve to say it. You gave me 60 years, but I didn't cherish it. After you left, I regretted every second, but it was too late. So, on the day of your funeral, I chose to follow you to the same world." By this time, Sophia was in tears. I was stunned, as if struck by lightning. What she meant by going to the same world was suicide. In the 60 years, Sophia, who had never given me a good look, actually committed suicide for me. Thinking about it carefully, this seemed to be the only reason she could be here. Otherwise, a healthy and disease-free Sophia couldn't have died 7 days after my death. I looked at Sophia again, and suddenly my heart felt like it was being grabbed. Just as I had never really understood her, she also seemed to have never really understood me. Yes, how could someone who didn't love me give birth to my children and stay with me for a lifetime, never leaving me? In my confusion, Sophia grabbed my arm and threw herself into my arms. She whispered in my ear, so softly that only we two could hear, "In the previous life, you pursued me, but I hurt you so much. In this life, let me win you back." As soon as she finished speaking, Sophia kissed me. In front of thousands of people, we kissed for more than 10 minutes. This bold act made the teachers beside us forget to stop us. After a long time, several teachers from the school finally had enough and pulled us apart. Then they called our parents and asked us to go home and reflect for a week. During the week of going home to reflect, I didn't care too much. Although the act of kissing on the podium almost trampled on the school rules and regulations, it wasn't a major issue of principle. After all, kissing isn't illegal. I just needed to write another self-criticism when I went back to school after 7 days. But the situation was much more serious than I thought. 7 days passed quickly. I took a car back to school, and I couldn't help feeling excited at the thought of seeing Sophia soon. In our long married life, this was the first time Sophia took the initiative to kiss me. When I got back to school, I found Sophia's seat empty. After asking around, I learned that someone had blown up Sophia's story through the media and reported it. Because of the bad influence, Sophia was directly suspended from school, and whether she would be expelled was still under discussion. I was shocked. Without caring about class, I immediately rushed to Sophia's house to ask about the situation. When I got there, Sophia's eyes were red from crying. When she saw me, she rushed up and hugged me. The news of our kiss had spread on various media, and the situation was getting worse. If it really became a hot topic, Sophia would definitely be expelled. In the previous life, Sophia's biggest dream was to study at a top university like Harvard. In this new life, she surely wanted to make up for this regret. But once she was expelled, Sophia would never have the chance again. I took Sophia's little hand and promised her that I would fix this. In my previous life, she supported me unreservedly in family business or family matters. With her help, I was able to run my business vigorously and in an orderly manner. Our sons and daughters were also excellent in character and learning and became the backbone of the company. In this life, it's my turn to support Sophia. Sophia curled up in my arms, sobbed and nodded, like a kitten caught in the rain. After returning, I immediately began to investigate the mastermind behind the hype. Logically speaking, what happened in the school would not have such a big social impact. If this hot topic became so popular, there must be someone behind the scenes. Before I could finish my investigation, David came to me. Once after class, he mysteriously called me to the deserted stairwell and said with a mean smile, "James, aren't you and Sophia deep? Now I'm giving you a chance to get her to start classes again." Sure enough, it was David who did it. I suppressed my anger and asked, "What do you want?" David said proudly, "I want you to admit in front of the media that it was not Sophia who kissed you, but that you molested her." What a vicious scheme. If I do what David says, not only will I be expelled, I'm afraid I will also go to prison and leave a criminal record. I was so angry that I clenched my fists and wanted to hit him, but he took out the hidden video recorder hidden in my chest and said arrogantly, "Come on, hit if you have the guts. I will tell the teacher later." I put down my fist hatefully and turned back to the classroom. In the next few days, I used the power of James's family to forcibly suppress the hotspots that David paid for the media to create. Things quickly settled down and no one paid attention to it anymore. Soon, my father asked the company to allocate some of the money to build a new library on an abandoned wasteland in the school. After completing the two things, the school quickly canceled the punishment against Sophia and let her return to campus. David failed to escape the fate of his previous life. He was approached by a woman for his disorderly life abroad, and was later expelled from school due to major violations of discipline. Soon, the college entrance examination came, and Sophia and I both got our wish and were admitted to Harvard University with excellent results and became alumni. We can finally make up for the regrets left in the previous life in this life.